With the Excelsior class a huge success after its standardized technological refit, Starfleet Command began to reimagine its fleet once again using the Excelsior class as its base. And one of these designs, the Merrimac class, would take a new spin on an old design. But what do we know about this forgotten starship class? Well, today we'll find out. Hello and welcome to another episode of Truth or Myth Beta Canon, a Star Trek web series that dives into the history of any given topic, using beta canon sources and my own imagination to fill in the gaps. In today's episode, we're taking a look at the Merrimac class to better understand its place in Star Trek history. Please note, as master of this channel, I often get special and unusual requests, and sometimes these requests will intrigue me so much that I'll quickly create the design and a story to surround them. And this is one of those times, having had a friend who asked me what a Constitution class refit using some of the Excelsior class components would actually look like. And I hope you'll all enjoy this Frankensteinian design. But as always, because this is just a little what-if fanfiction video, all information relayed should pretty much be taken with a grain of stardust and only considered a little bit of Star Trek fun. And so, with all that out of the way, let's begin. The highly publicized failure of the Great Experiment in 2286 sent shockwaves through the United Federation of Planets. As a result, Starfleet Command's hierarchy would be completely reorganized, with many of the old guard forced to take distant outpost positions or be drummed out of the service entirely, forced into early retirement. For the better part of 2 decades, Starfleet Command had been pouring its resources into increasingly outlandish projects, with very little return on any of them. Everything from the failed Atlas class to several starship designs built but never followed through on had eroded the public's faith in the organization. Bringing a younger but seemingly far more responsible team to head up Starfleet's Command Council seemed to be the right idea to allay the fears of its citizens. And overall, this solution would be successful. But one question still remained for Starfleet Command: what to do about the USS Excelsior. After Montgomery Scott of the Starship Enterprise had sabotaged the Excelsior, Starfleet Command would charge the Enterprise crew with that crime, and subsequently replace the removed components, resuming their transwarp trials. However, the transwarp engine system would simply fail. Overall, the project had become a persona non grata topic of conversation. It seemed that everyone in the Federation did not want to even think about the USS Excelsior. That is, all except the new Command Council. Reviewing the shakedown test reports on the design, Starfleet Command was amazed by how the Excelsior had performed, other than the transwarp experiment, of course. So the question was floated very early on: what if they refit the USS Excelsior with more standardized technology? Secretly employing a team to plan such a refit, in 2288, Starfleet Command would finally approve the Excelsior refit, and in the end, the Excelsior refit was a complete success, outperforming every class that had come before her. And with the Excelsior class's success, came a wide variety of new starship designs based on that class. But with the upcoming retirement of the command crew of the Enterprise A, Starfleet Command would begin to consider the legacy of the Starship Enterprise and which starship class would carry the 1701-B registry number. There were 2 camps in that debate, the first being the Excelsior class camp, with those supporting this idea believing the Excelsior class to be perfect to carry on the Enterprise's name. But a smaller camp, but equally as vocal, thought that perhaps a brand new design based on the Constitution class refit, but using Excelsior class components, should carry the reins instead. But could such a thing even work? So to answer the question once and for all, Starfleet Command would grant them permission to secretly throw together a starship class to run some tests. And in 2292, the Merrimac class would be born. Sitting at a length of 322 meters, the Merrimac class would be designed to be operated by 355 officers and crew members. It should be noted, however, that if this new Merrimac class was in fact successful, the final design of the ship would be improved upon, and not exactly resemble the test vehicle for this design. So secret was the class that it wouldn't be officially registered in the Starfleet Starship database, and would not receive even the traditional NX registry to denote its experimental status. Retaining the basic lines and shape of the original Constitution class and her refit, the Merrimac class would be hastily thrown together using parts from both a Constitution class refit vessel and newly constructed and adapted Excelsior class components, such as a smaller saucer design. Having sustained major damage to its saucer section during its last mission, Starfleet Command would grant the Starship designers permission to use the already existing USS Merrimac's secondary hull, which was still relatively intact in its new design. Theoretically, with the newly developed engine nacelles of the Excelsior class attached to it, the Merrimac class was to have a standard safe cruising speed of warp factor 8, with an emergency maximum speed of warp factor 12.5 for 24-hour increments, all old warp scale of course. Tactically, the Merrimac class would be as well equipped as her Constitution class refit counterpart, containing a vast number of dual emitter phaser banks, as well as photon torpedo launching systems, both forward and aft. Replacing the Merrimac Constitution class refit's warp core with a modified Excelsior warp core was to increase the power output of the Starship, which again in theory would bolster the Merrimac's shield capacities by at least 20%. Though a standard aft shuttle bay would be included in this design, she would only contain one shuttlecraft during the testing process. In fact, many areas of the ship not necessary for testing the design would be left incomplete. This would include cargo facilities and most crew quarters, with the shakedown crew bunking up bunker style in sparsely furnished officers' quarters. Testing on the Merrimac design, however, would run into almost immediate problems. The design of the secondary hull immediately caused structural issues in the design thanks to its Excelsior-style warp core, forcing the shakedown crew to scale back the power output of the new core, and this in turn would affect the performance of all the Merrimac class's systems. But even with a reduced power output from its core, the design should have performed better at warp velocity than its Constitution-class refit older sister. However, it did not. Instead, because of the nacelle's larger size, the Merrimac class would require a larger warp bubble and more power to generate it, while the structural integrity fields and the inertial dampeners would also require an increase in power to keep the ship stable and held together. Stress on the neck section of the ship due to the nacelle's design was particularly distressing, with its Starship engineers realizing that a far more substantial neck would be required in this new design, which in turn would require a far more substantial secondary hull, which in the end would defeat the entire purpose of this class, as it would resemble the Excelsior class far more than it would resemble the Constitution class refit design that they had wanted to achieve. And so, much to the dismay of both Starfleet Command and the Merrimac class's designers, the project would be abandoned, with the Excelsior class's components being removed and repurposed into a vessel of that class, while the Merrimac's secondary hull would be decommissioned alongside her damaged primary hull. And although the Merrimac class would not carry on the Enterprise legacy as intended, a variant design of the Excelsior class would, with the launch of the Enterprise B in 2293. Created as an experiment to test the viability of a Constitution-style Excelsior class, the failed Merrimac project would simply be forgotten, earning this design its what might have been place in Starfleet history. Thank you for watching today's episode of Truth or Myth Beta Canon. What do you think of the Merrimac class and the historical narrative that I've created here? Do you want to see more videos like this one? Well, leave your comments in the section below, and don't forget to like the video and subscribe to the channel, hitting that little bell icon so you won't miss a single video we release. Want to help the channel test its Starship design theories out in deep space? Then consider becoming a channel member subscriber or channel patron. both a major help that allows this channel to purchase resources and 3D models to keep it going. The link to both memberships is in the description below. Thanks again for watching. Live long and prosper.